Welcome to the next episode of the MB2 Underground podcast. I'm extraordinarily excited. Today we have a special guest, a guest that we yanked out of some important meetings last minute without any preparation. So we very, very much appreciate founder of Haystack, Mr. Cameron Lindsay.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, I'm the king of winging it at this point, man. That's what you got to do. So I'm excited to be here.
I love it. We really, really appreciate it. This is fantastic. So the MB2 Underground podcast is about talking to entrepreneurs, right? Dentists have created a business. The MB2 partners are, founder entrepreneurs, and they love to hear stories of other founder entrepreneurs, right? So that's just what we're trying to accomplish on the MB2 Underground podcast, right? Is to talk to really cool people like yourself and just hear the story and understand, how you did what you did and kind of, all the mechanics and all the things. So maybe if you don't mind to kind of rudimentary back us up, or those that aren't, super tech savvy, what is an intranet?
Yeah, I'll give you two explanations. I'll give you the explanation that I would give my mom,
yes,
right, who's not the most tech literate person in the world.
Love it.
I would say that an intranet is like the front page newspaper of your company, right? That's how I would describe it to someone. Where it's basically like they're predominantly used by large companies, and it's a way you log in and you can find information about your coworkers. You can see top-down announcements from your CEO. You can find your 401k policy. You have little spaces for your departments and teams. Some people might think it's like an internal LinkedIn of sorts, but intranets have been around for decades and decades. Since they really started at the tail end of the 90s, people would build these platforms internally and it would have all these different tools. Now, every one of those tools has their own SaaS provider behind it. Like communications is largely dominated by Slack, file storage, Dropbox, Box, Continued. And a modern intranet kind of seeks to consolidate all those systems securely into one single hub. I think what's so fascinating is the majority of these instances, you don't even know Haystack's the provider behind it, or at least that's the goal for us, right? So you might know it just as Cerebro, not as an intranet or anything.
Awesome. So a one-stop shop.
Basically, yeah.
What was the genesis? Who was building intranets way back when in the 90s, and what were they using it for exactly?
I mean, typically they were built internally, right? You'd have teams of people that would build these things together. You'd securely log in at your desktop and you do it that way. And then a provider came around called Jive, and they were kind of like the first player in the space,
Interesting.
Right? They went public as a company, and every big company, some of them are still on it today. Wow. But Jive was really the first one who kind of broke the wall down of being like, we can make this into a software company.
We can do something different here.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So why was the intranet lonely? You guys got a great website. I love it.
Yeah. Why was it lonely? I think mainly intranets. I'll phrase it this way. Intranets fail because they're not connected to stuff, right? So you can imagine a directory without people-rich data is not a good directory. Announcements that are never read because no one ever receives them. That's why intranets are lonely. They're not connected to things. So for us, securely integrating with Teams, Slack, with OneDrive, with Google Drive, those kind of systems, that makes it populated, that makes it more friendly, less lonely.
I love it. I love it. So maybe back me up. Tell me about you, right? So, how did this happen? Stanford engineer, right? Engineering program. So how did you get here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it way back, I guess. But parents are both entrepreneurs. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur out the gate.
What do they do? Or what did they do?
What did they do? They did a bunch of stuff, and they still do a bunch of stuff. Cool. But they really they did outdoor lighting, garden lighting, and it's kind of funny because it kind of translates into why I picked intranets. But I remember growing up as a kid, my dad would sculpt lights. My dad's like a builder; he's a tinker of all these different things, and so he built our house that we still live in to this day. My parents still live in to this day by himself, and he put so much pride into this house. Then he went to go put garden lighting in it. And he, as an entrepreneur, stumbled upon a problem. He's like, I put all this time and energy and effort and love into building this house, and now I got to go buy these plastic lights from Home Depot to light it up at night. And my dad, being my dad in his quirky ways, he was like, instead of, I don't know, maybe finding better lights online, he decided to go literally mold and create and fire them up in the kiln lights, like garden lights, like luxury garden lights. So for him, his angle was, I like to say it's like Tiffany's for the garden. And so for a long time, it was like luxury garden lightings that they did. So for me as a kid, I like really cut my teeth from like a sales perspective, going to garden lighting shows in the Midwest. And my family's originally from Michigan. So like I love going to like, Philadelphia Flower Show, all those kind of things. And my parents would send me out as free labor. They had to send this like, 10-year-old kid out to run around and pass out flyers. And we, the old credit card machines, you put the credit card down.
Absolutely.
Like, I remember to me back in the day, like that's when I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, when I felt the first credit card. So I was like, went out, convinced these two ladies who were looking for a garden light, got the credit card, swiped it, and I was like, oh, I'm hooked.
It felt good.
I knew I was going to do it. So then flash forward, I'm in college and I know all my friends were looking to get finance internships and this. I didn't even know what PE stood for.
What year? What year are we talking about? Sorry.
So yeah, I graduated high school in 2011 and then went to college, went to Stanford. And then all my friends, like I was saying, they were getting internships, like doing PE and I didn't come from that world. I had no idea what they were doing. And I was like, I think I want to start, I don't know, a company. And I had every bad idea. I had Uber for yoga instructors. I had like,
tell me about that. Oh, dude,
there were some bad ones. There were some good ones. All of them had good names. All of them had good catchphrases. All of them had bad businesses behind them.
Every great founder has some attempts that didn't quite click, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first one, I wouldn't say it was a bad attempt, but the common mistake is like a market that doesn't exist or solving a problem that doesn't exist. And I think the first thing I went out the gate was starting a LinkedIn for creatives. Like I was like really interested in building like a structured way to connect, gaffers, lighters, people that worked on set and like trying to go create like a LinkedIn network for them. I didn't know how I was going to make money and it never made money, but it was like a great opportunity for me to kind of cut my teeth on everything. I dropped out of school twice from Stanford, once without telling my parents. I did end up finishing promising to them. And one of them was in pursuit of said thing that I just mentioned. But I don't know, to flash forward kind of, in failing those businesses before, it made me realize is like, I mean, it seems obvious now, but like maybe solve a problem that exists or a market that exists, offer something to the market, a better experience or whatever, and actually make money. And then use that money to get more customers to give you money. So like that, I think that experience and everything kind of, and also my parents starting like a Midwestern garden lighting company, raising no capital at all, like that kind of informed me into where we're at now, what we're working on with Haystack.
Do you think entrepreneurship is innate, or do you think it's learned, or do you think it's a combination, right? I mean, you clearly have some cool entrepreneur genes in your family, but this is a question that always fascinates me.
Yeah, I like to believe that like humans change and that you can learn these skills. I think that some people are, I think it really comes down to risk at the end of the day. And it's like, you're not like born as an entrepreneur. I think you're born comfortable with risk or not comfortable. I think for me, it's easier when you have parents that are entrepreneurs, because like for me, I was like used to my parents, boxing and selling lights and worrying about inventory and cash flow and those kind of things. So like I was born in an environment of risk, right? And so for me, I feel more comfortable in it, but I also think people learn that over time, right? They get comfortable with entering the cage, so to speak, of entrepreneurship.
You got your MBA when you were 10. That's fantastic, man. That's super, super cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so real quick, I've got to ask about the Uber for yoga teachers.
Oh, it was just a bad idea. Never took off, no nothing, but like, I think it's a classic example of just, you have delusions of grandeur when you're in college in your freshman dorm thinking you're going to be the next one, and you just start throwing spaghetti against the wall, and then you realize spaghetti doesn't really stick.
Yeah, so, I love it. Yeah. No, I actually owned a yoga studio about that time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for 5 years, and so I little fascinated on that industry.
Well, I've just been passionate about wellness as a space. Yeah, so for me, and I just feel like I really value wellness and that kind of thing, and so that I use as a joke of one of my bad attempts. Yeah. But I do like I've always wanted to go build something in the wellness space because it aligns with who I am.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Yeah, no, awesome. Okay, so had a few false starts, so to speak, and then what?
Then after my so I started that LinkedIn for creatives company and ended up returning the capital back to investors, and just had a really good relationship with two investors in particular who were just like, I was dreading. I remember the day writing that email to him, like every keystroke felt like a punch. And they just responded back with just like the most motivated, sincere, sweet message. Just be like, hey, like life's basically, and I take this every single day, but like, entrepreneurship specifically is like baseball. And it's like the only difference is that you get infinite pitches.
Yep.
And so you just got to keep swinging. And he's like, your first swing was a strike, but you're not out unless you choose to be out. Just keep hitting. And so I kind of took that as a moment to maybe go back to the dugout for a second.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed some more like professional experience. So I applied around a lot. I had a lot of friends that worked at Snapchat. I really wanted to work at Snapchat. And kind of before I could even go into the job market, I got a text from now who's become one of my close friends, who's a founder of a company called WorkPop at the time. And they really specialize in doing like HR systems for restaurants in particular.
Interesting.
And I wasn't particularly passionate about the space at all, but I was really passionate about this individual. And I think, once again, it kind of informed where I'm at now because I was fascinated. This guy's name is Reed Schaffner, and his co-founder was Chris Ovitz. And what I liked about Reed was the one who called me. Reed said he came from a gaming background. He used to work at Zynga, and he was like the GM of Farmville, which is like a super popular Facebook app. And he was working on an HR product for frontline restaurants. And I kind of asked him about it. I was like, why aren't you working on more mobile games? And he was like, because I have a really unique take on this. Like, I'm going to be the most fun HR system that these restaurant employees will ever use. Like, I know these users from a different angle. Ended up working there for a couple of years, and then they got bought by a company called Cornerstone On Demand. So I went from working at a company with about 40 employees to working at a company with like 1,000 employees.
Interesting.
And got ushered in. And the true part of the story is I literally quit on day one, or I attempted to quit on the first day, like during onboarding. Like I, told Reed, I was like, I'm out. And he basically was like, don't leave, like stay here, give it a shot. I even met with the CEO of the company, really smart guy, really passionate about HR, technology. And he was like, stay, like go learn about the space, like, embed yourself into these customer success meetings, find a problem. Like he kind of in a way reminded me of what I'm telling you before about like, you got to find a problem first and find your moment in the market and then attack it. And that entrepreneur did it really well with Cornerstone. And so that like I sat there for, 2 years really, and just took in all that I could. And that's when I stumbled upon the intranet.
I love it. I love it. What was your concern that was too big and too stuffy, too corporate, too? Yeah.
I mean, like, I know majority of people are listening, but like, I got the long hair. I'm like, I'm a designer kid at my core. It's like, I got my process. I didn't know if I would really do well in that corporate environment. I actually ended up really enjoying it and meeting a lot of good people there. One of which is now my VP of engineering. He was the first hire I made. And I met him on a project there. It's just like funny how life works out like that.
100%. No, that's super cool. So would you describe Haystack as like a Peter Thiel, like 0 to 1 type concept, or how would you kind of categorize it?
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing with an intranet is like, the philosophy is start a company that's like super simple, right? Where it's like you build something and you ship it right away, and you get people to pay for it. And in a sense, we kind of did that, and I'll elaborate on that in a second. But the intranet is just so feature dense. Like if you think about what Cerebro is, there's just so many little things. It's like there are so many different companies within an intranet, right? We always say there's different pillars of it. There's a directory, there's internal comms, there's knowledge. You have to build out so much stuff within it. But I was really passionate about building out a better intranet, I believe it's a huge opportunity. But so it's not a 0 to 1 thing. It's like a 0 to, in terms of product, it's like a 100%. 0 to 20.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's super cool. Yeah, I pulled a very important tax information on Cerebro, a week ago, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't know that was where we were going to get that information. And it's super helpful. It's that concept of it being a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
It's fantastically efficient and extraordinarily beneficial, right, as an employee. So awesome. Okay, so Haystack makes a big organization, big company feel manageable, right? Yeah, smaller. I love it.
It's funny because that line came to me working in that cubicle at Cornerstone. I was sitting there and I was in a customer support meeting with an unnamed large company, and while I was at Cornerstone, I'm sitting there with the CS team, and this team keeps mentioning their intranet, and they're so frustrated with it. They're like, it's clunky. We have all these engineers who are working on it. It doesn't work. It's not connected. I can't find anything. And I'm sitting here, and all I'm hearing is I'm hearing an opportunity, and I'm seeing the bar get lower and lower and lower. I'm like, wow, this platform is so sticky. They can't get off of it. The customers hate it. The employees hate it. I was like, someone needs to go build this in a really consumer grade way. I flash back to Reed Schaffner, who approached HR systems from a gaming angle. And I'm like, I'm a consumer design guy. Let me go build a consumer grade version of this and start from that perspective. So I think not too long after that, I quit my job and then started making screens in a design software called Figma. So it wasn't actually a real product. It was just all fake screens. And I, told my parents, I'm going to go raise money. I'm going to do this thing. And my parents were like, go get a contract first. Like, let's go prove this is real. Being the good Midwestern entrepreneurs that they are. And I did. I emailed like everyone in LA, and Honey, the coupon company, was the one who, came back to us and was like, hey, we're actually looking for an intranet and we're looking at all these different providers. Can you go build this? And I'm just like, yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. And they're like, cool, here's the contract. Let's do it. 1 year. Let's go for it. And then I was like, great. And they're like, we need it in 2 months. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't exist. I was like, we gotta go build this. But for me, that was enough of a moment to be like, there is people willing to pay for a product out there.
Yeah, absolutely. How did the COVID experience and then kind of the subsequent, more prolific kind of work from home culture, and it's really taken hold. It's the world changed, right? Really true. The work world changed. Yeah. Right. Yeah. How has that impacted Haystack? How has that impacted just the concept of an intranet? And
yeah, I'll tell you, Jai, like when I first heard about COVID, I was living in Santa Monica at the time, and it's in the early days of Haystack. And I think my initial reaction was, we're done. Just because that is the dynamic that we're kind of fed. I'm like, oh, business is done for us. Like we haven't really, I think maybe we had 1 or 2 clients at the time. Wow. I was like, yeah, we're done. And we at that time, we'd raised a small seed round from some local investors who were really supportive through it. Yeah. And I remember walking down the street and I was like, damn, this journey's done before it even started in a way. Unreal. And then, looking back on it, it's opportunity, right? Huge. It's, all the things aside with COVID, it was an opportunity to go capitalize off of distributed companies. Yep. Because companies that had even one HQ now were technically micro distributed. They had their employees working from home. But my initial reaction to it was, we're done so. And then in retrospect, kind of like calming down, breathing a little bit, you realize there was an opportunity there. I do think we were like a year too late for it. Like if we would have been a year prior where we were at that time, we would have had a much bigger opportunity, but we definitely had a good bump from it.
Capitalized on it. Yeah. But what a cool lesson, right? There's so many entrepreneurs or business owners that went through that exact same oh shit moment, right? COVID, whoa, we don't know what this is. It's going to change the world. We're done, right? Yeah. But like that, there's your yoga, right? You had the experience, you recognize, you're aware of the experience, you breathe, take a breath or two, and you're like, oh, okay, we got this. Right?
I apply, I think it's a multitude of those kind of events I think that's a muscle that I'm really proud of training a lot, is that I'm constantly putting out fires at work now from like different departments, different people that are bringing me things. And I think one thing I'm really trying to work on consciously to this day is just like any news I get in, it's just like trying to baseline it as much as possible. Yep. It's like, if you're going to send that email, wait till tomorrow. If you're going to give that response, wait till tomorrow. If you're going to be angry or upset or anxious, just wait for tomorrow, and then it'll even out.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are folks out there that are talking about it that are in your seat, right? Yeah. But I think people need to hear that story more. They need to get that encouragement, right? I've got 5 young kids, and that's my just they're give me the like, hey, this is my practice, right? Interacting with them, and I can't just always react. I have to observe, right? But yeah, I mean, folks in your position, there's the wellness tie-in, right? Like, beautiful, man. Like, you're in such a great spot to communicate this really important stuff to folks. That it can help them and their employees and their business. So, what's next, right, for Haystack? Like, what is it going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, or is that too far, like down the line?
Yeah, I mean, like to finish with that last thread, it was like we ended up being super lean, I think, as a result of COVID, being like, hey, I want to be a really capital efficient business, and I want to rely off growth from referral, and obviously spend money on marketing and things like that. And we ended up, customer to customer to customer to customer, all referrals for those first 20 or so. And then have piled it on since. Last year we tripled the customers that were on Haystack last year alone.
Wow, congrats.
And the revenues with it, and like we profitable as of end of last year. I was just going over numbers with Jeff in the other room recently. And what's next? I mean, I think by the time this comes out too, I can say this stuff, but like a couple months ago, Google reached out to us about a AI partnership, about building some really exciting stuff with Google AI. And we're obviously a HIPAA compliant organization, obviously working with MB2. And so like, there's a lot of considerations when you go bring in AI into platforms. And I think I like to say to my team, we want to be more like Apple when it comes to AI, like all things aside, than like another company, in the sense that Apple is very measured. They take their time to release things, where a lot of other companies will be fast to release and then face the consequences of it.
Yep.
Everyone was talking about AI like a year ago, and we were thinking about it. And now we found a really good way to go do it that I'm super excited about. So I would say like AI, the partnership with Google, they're being an incredible partner, and like bringing like search, content summary. I just think there's a lot of really magic moments that an intranet can make using the magic wand of AI. Wow. So like imagining dream experience of like, you started a company like MB2, and it's like, let's say it's Joe's first day, and it was like, welcome, Joe. These are the top moments you missed before you started. And here's like the top fun facts about Mickey that you don't know. Like now you really know who Mickey is.
Yeah, 100%.
And like tailoring that out to each person. There's really interesting onboarding moments, search moments. Like AI, I think, is the unlock. Right now that I'm really excited about.
Wow, to do the mining and get all that information to come forward and
and I think the other thing too is that like you look at really big intranets, right? So like Google has a platform called MoMA. It's incredible. There's a team behind it, beautifully branded. Everyone loves it. But like not every company has the resources that Google has at their disposal to like make really good posts that look good and subtitles and make sure the content's always fresh. But if you can leverage AI to be that team, then like I think we can start to help mid-sized companies feel smaller too, because you only need maybe one person working part-time on an intranet and it will look awesome. Like that's where I hope to be in 5 years, is that like companies of a variety of sizes can use Haystack and a variety of use cases. Frontline, I'm really interested in all that.
Yeah. The efficiency that's going to create for the workforce is pretty incredible, and not even just efficiency. It's like the experience, right?
Yeah,
the experience is more enjoyable, and like that in and of itself is special. Again, there's another wellness tie-in, but like people perform better when they're happy, man. I mean, it's like simple stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your investors, what you can. And one thing I'll tell you I noticed, which I thought was really darn cool from your website, is a lot of your investors are founders.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So our bigger investors in the platform, like we have Cotu, as well as Greycroft. Those are like our institutional VCs, but like more to your point of like the founders, like that's the thing that excites me, is I really wanted to have a cap table. Like, you know, a lot of companies in our space particularly have raised a lot of money. I think we take a lot of pride in being very capital efficient and profitable and that kind of stuff. But you get you get disproportionate value per check size from founders versus these funds. And that's no knock on a fund. It's just the founder just has that. They're able to tell you things like, breathe, wait for tomorrow. This is an opportunity. It feels scary. Like they give you that silver lining.
Yep. And
so yeah, we have like Mark Merrill, who's the founder and CEO or co-founder and CEO of Riot Games, which is a huge gaming company. BizStone, who's one of the founders of Twitter back in the day. And, you know, I got to meet all these amazing founders that I looked up to in the early days. And like, I will tell you, I'm really excited now. I'm going to be even more excited in a year. But those first couple, you know, after quitting your job and like running around and meeting founders, I remember like driving up in my car to like meet Mark Merrill and drive to his house, and I meet this guy. And like, I walked into his house, and the first thing I said to him was like, your house looks like my Pinterest board. And that was the first thing I said to this guy. And he was like, in retrospect, I was like, why did you say that? And he immediately was just like, nice to meet you. Yeah. Sat on the couch and just so attentive, so sweet, such genuine advice. BizStone too, just like the most thoughtful, really cool individual. And I'm really grateful to have them on the team.
That's special. That's special. I mean, gosh, the street cred you get from, you know, successful founders wanting to, you know, again, see somebody else because they see something special, man. Totally. Like that's cool, you know? Yeah. And yeah, no knock on the institutions, but it's just different, right? It's just different. Did the folks, the investors that gave you the advice, the baseball analogy, you know, like, hey, it's okay, you'll get another swing. Yeah. Were they founders by any chance? Do you remember?
That particular or that theme of advice, I would say actually was from an individual named Jeremy Voss, who was a product leader at Snapchat, and now he's moved up to Palo Alto. And I developed a great relationship with him, like product big brother. And he's been with us since the start. He was there before we even incorporated the company, and he was the one who gave me that advice. Very central, down to earth guy.
I love it. I love it. So one thing that we usually like to ask our dentist entrepreneurs, right, is like, hey, what is your craziest, kind of patient story, or your craziest scenario? So you don't necessarily have a patient story, but maybe give us anything you could share, like crazy customer story or crazy maybe fire you had to put out that maybe somebody who's not an entrepreneur, somebody who's not a founder would never kind of experience, a scenario like that.
Trying to think one that's podcast friendly, being conscious of everything. I would say, maybe I'll turn this into a lesson, is like, be wary of the perfect fit employee. Yeah, and this is like, this is honestly, like, I really respect this person and all things aside, but like, because of, I'll be very abstract about the story, but it's like, sometimes when you see the perfect fit for the perfect thing, that it should cause your gut to go a little bit, right? And like we
too
hired,
good to be true.
Yeah, like we had like a head of sales hire that I was really excited. Like, could not be a more perfect fit. And I would just say, unbeknownst to me, it came with a lot of baggage, is what I will just say to be plain. And we luckily avoided any chaos that associated with that. But it was like, I think that was a note to me where it was like, wow, you're like, oh, done. Like, we're done. This is the perfect person for it. And then it was like 2 weeks later, not. So I don't have any crazy. I mean, we have crazy customers that come through, crazy in like a cool way, like just like the sheer size of it. Like, the other day, I'm one of those founders who keeps my phone on dings every time we get someone who watches a video, because I get so excited about it. Yeah. Like, we'll get like, I won't name exact names, but just shopping department store companies with like 100,000 plus customers, employees will come through, or like airlines will come through, and those things just I'm out of bed, I'm ready to go. Let's go. Like, those are the ones where I'm just like crazy, where you're like, wow, I created this thing with my team, and like now people come through, and
I love it.
Yeah, it lights me up every time.
It's just like your parents at that that gardening conference in the Midwest.
Yeah, I guess so. Man. Yeah,
I love it.
Life's just a big Philadelphia flower show. Yeah.
Cameron, it's an absolute blast to have you, man. Really appreciate taking time and doing this so last minute and letting us yank you out of other important stuff. So
I appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you, man. Awesome. Yeah. Listeners, thank you for joining the most recent fantastic episode of the MB2 Underground podcast. We will catch you next time.